Boom. How's that, Terry? I've got a brand new computer, guys. You gotta stick with me here. All right, I gotta figure this stuff out. I'll run through everything again right quick, just so everybody knows, because obviously, if you've been listening or watching, there's no sound. You couldn't see anything. The website, winningcureseverything.com, all of our picks, previews, podcasts, videos, social media platforms. If you miss a live show, you can obviously find us on any of your favorite podcast apps. Make sure you're good to go with that. This new computer is driving me nuts. So, yeah, we're having to do this on the fly. I thought I'd have Chris with me today. Obviously, things have gotten in the way, so I am riding solo, and that is the way that this is going to go. Chris has got other stuff happening right now, and I wanted to make sure that we got the show in because there are sports to discuss. So we have things that we need to talk about. Go over to sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. That's where all of our college football content will be and is already. We've already got picks up for this week, etc. We've both got articles up over there. We have videos that we've already done for the week. We will be doing the closing line show at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow on the Sportsbook Review YouTube page. You can go to YouTube and search for SBR Picks, and it'll pop up right there for you. Make sure you're subscribed over there, and we go live on Tuesdays and Saturdays for sure, sometimes on Thursdays in case something massive happens. And then we will have our opening line show that comes out on Monday mornings, so make sure that you jump in there and knock on that. So let's go ahead and discuss today's topics. You can see them on the screen. We only have room whenever it's me solo. The Browns got a win last night, but Joe Burrow looked fantastic in that backdoor cover comeback. So he cashed for me. I appreciate that. So we'll talk about that. The NCAA, going to discuss for a few minutes that they need to allow players that have signed with agents to opt back into this season. They need to approve it, and they need to do it quickly. Cade Mays has been ruled eligible. That's what happens when you get a lawyer on your side against the NCAA. They would rather just, allow you to play than have to try and fight somebody. The Lakers and the Nuggets, Game 1 is this evening. We will talk about that. And the Pac-12, Mountain West, and the MAC are discussing coming back to play. That would be every conference in the country will be playing college football so long as they can get things done this fall. So, topic number 1, let's go ahead and discuss that. If you want to jump in on the show, by the way, the chat box down in the left-hand corner, very simple. Whatever platform you are on, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Periscope, it'll populate right there. Make sure you jump in the chat. I would love to have your opinion, and you can jump into the show and help drive the conversation. Terry has already jumped in, so you can jump in from anywhere and do that. First topic of the day, that would be the Browns and the Bengals from Thursday Night Football. Obviously, I bet, and Chris as well, bet on the Bengals to cover the 6. We thought they had a shot to win the game. Too many problems for the Bengals. Obviously, we made that bet before knowing that 2 of the defensive tackles for the Bengals were out. That offensive line is complete trash, etc. And still, they managed to keep it within 1 score. That is pretty impressive. Terry said, who cares about basketball? It's a week until the MLB playoffs. That's kind of the question that I'm going to ask is, does anybody care about basketball? But we'll get to that once we roll through the topics. Joe Burrow looks like an absolute beast. He looks great. Now, you hesitate to... Terry said, this is why Chris didn't come in today. His boy toy Burrow let him down. No hard eyes anymore. No, here's the thing. Joe Burrow looked fantastic. However, his team around him does not look great. And Joe Burrow did cash for us. We both took him +6. I made money on the deal, so I felt pretty good about that last second touchdown. So it's definitely good things coming up for Joe Burrow, but they have got to work on those offensive and defensive lines in Cincinnati. Now, obviously, the tight end going down does not help anything. That's never a good thing when you're losing weapons. A.J. Green, a couple of drops, all sorts of different stuff that's going wrong for the Bengals. They have got more problems than most teams, right? I mean, there's a reason why they had the number 1 pick. Quarterback is no longer an issue for them, I don't believe. Joe Burrow looks like an absolute stud. If you're asking me who I would rather have, Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow, you put Joe Burrow on the Browns, that is an absolute playoff team this year, right now. And he doesn't have the same weapons. He doesn't have the same lines. He doesn't have all of the things that Cleveland has. Cleveland has issues as well, don't get me wrong. But I like Joe Burrow. He showed me last night that he can be really, really, really good. So I will roll with that, and then we'll see what happens. Next topic on the board. Well, Terry said, well, they lost to the Browns, so yeah, they suck. There's a lot of teams going to lose to the Browns this year, my friend. There are a lot of teams that will lose to that talented team. So let's see. Next topic on the board, NCAA needs to allow agent opt-ins. All right, so here is how this is going to be discussed today. The NCAA needs to come out right now and just go ahead and approve everybody in the Big Ten, in the Pac-12, in the Mountain West, etc. All of these conferences that said that they were not playing this fall, now that they are deciding to play, and we'll talk about the Pac-12 at the end of the show and whatnot, the Big Ten for sure, anybody that has signed with an agent, which we're not sure if Wyatt Davis, the Ohio State lineman, has or not. I don't believe Sean Wade has. Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver in Minnesota, et cetera, et cetera. Micah Parsons, whoever else. He's the linebacker at Penn State. If these guys want to opt back in and play this fall in a shortened season, the NCAA needs to approve that, and they need to get it done now. This is very simple stuff. If they took money from an agent, you give the money back until the end of the season. This is not hard to figure out, right? Like, you already know that these guys are going to get paid in the NFL. Just make it a show, because that's all it is. Go ahead and make them give the money back. And no suspension, no nothing like that, because you're already playing a shortened season. Everybody gets an extra year of eligibility anyway. If you want to do the right thing, and who knows if that's what the NCAA actually wants to do, but remember, they are here to help protect student-athletes, or at least that was their initial mission. You need to go ahead and approve this. This seems like a no-brainer. Now, it would not shock me if they came out and decided to, hey, if you went ahead and signed with an agent, that's on you. Sorry, there's nothing we can do. You've already taken money. Then I understand it. But it is still awful. It is not good. So, I'm hopeful that they will understand that these are incredibly mitigating circumstances. So you gotta come out and do the right thing. Hopefully the NCAA does that. I hope that they will allow these guys to play, because it will be a much better football season if they are allowed to play. Terry said the NCAA never wants to do what's right by the student, just what's best for their pocket. Well, this would be good for both, because the only guys that have signed with agents right now are the guaranteed superstars, right? The guys that are going to be drafted in the NFL draft. And it's better for you if you got a good product on the field. So we'll see what happens, but I'm very hopeful here, very hopeful. So with that said, we can go ahead and talk about this, and this is going to be a shorter show today. Sorry, guys. I am running on fumes. I got things to knock out. Of course, we've got our College Football Lines show tomorrow that I've got to still finish prepping for. But yeah, closing lines, all that good stuff. So the third topic, Cade Mays has been ruled eligible. And this is exactly what happens, and what every kid that is wanting to transfer without having to sit out a year, all that kind of stuff, until they pass the rule where you can transfer one time without having to sit out with no penalties. Until they pass that, if you are going to transfer, you need to go ahead and get yourself a lawyer and threaten a suit of some sort. Just make sure that you are set up and come up with a good story. You got to have a pretty good story, right? A good reason to go back. Now, Cade Mays, he's from Knoxville. He went to Georgia. The coaches at Georgia did not want him to transfer. They wanted him to sit on the bench behind whoever. He wanted to go back to Knoxville and play at Tennessee, and he wanted to do it now. Come up with anything that you need to. A toxic environment, whatever. James Little jumps in. Do you like Appalachian State this weekend? I am going to research that a little more. No, I don't. That was one of my picks. I've got Marshall. But jump in on the Closing Line show tomorrow on Sportsbook Review, and I'll discuss that one. But Cade Mays, he got himself a lawyer. He appealed the initial decision that he was ineligible for this season, which is insane. The idea that anybody would be ineligible this year, in a year that they have said is just an extra year, everybody is getting another year of eligibility. What does it even matter at this point? But either way, I'm not going to be upset, because they did approve him, and he is eligible. And of course, they mark him eligible 1 week before the Tennessee Volunteers start play against South Carolina next Saturday. So we'll see what happens with that. They need to do this across the board. It just needs to be a blanket waiver. Like, whoever transferred before this season, this has been nuts. This is insane. The COVID year is bonkers. So they need to go ahead and do that, and I'm glad that they approved Cade Mays, for sure. Nuggets versus Lakers. Game 1 is this evening. I understand we got baseball, playoffs next week, all that kind of stuff. Terry, we will jump into baseball next week. I promise. Nobody really cares right now. Like, the baseball ratings are not great. But nobody really cares about the basketball ratings either. And that's what I want to jump into on this is, does anybody, Monster Gaming said, no Chris, Cap, JK, is that an Atlanta Braves shirt? No, this is an Alabama shirt. I was born and raised an Alabama fan. For those of you that do not know, my dad and my grandparents and other family members, aunts, uncles, etc., all went to school down there. I stood up here at Memphis, so it is what it is. But yes, no Chris today. Chris is out. Had to get some things done, and I'm riding solo. So it is what it is. I'm curious, for anybody that's in the chat, does anybody care about this Nuggets and Lakers matchup? I don't think that very many people care about the Heat and the Celtics, and I get the feeling that Adam Silver is begging for LeBron James and Anthony Davis to win this series, because you cannot have a Nuggets versus Miami Heat finals. I mean, you just cannot have it. You need the star power. Terry said, not at all, don't watch the NBA. Darren McCardle said Nuggets will win. First game is a lock. See, that's the thing. I really think that they are going to push. I think the referees are going to give every single call to LeBron and AD. And after that, it just comes down to, all right, well, do some of their guys make shots? If it is a close game, I think the Lakers have got this no problem. I'm not going to bet on it because this whole thing has been absurd. Absolutely absurd. So, we will see. We will see what happens. But yeah, this is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy stuff. Let's see. Nuggets will win. Oh, yeah. First, there we go. Monster Gaming. Half of America doesn't know the name Nikola Jokic. Of course, the NBA doesn't want him in the finals. Yeah, that's the deal. The Nuggets are a fantastic team. Heat versus Nuggets in the COVID finals, because it's been that type of year. Yeah, it certainly has. And if that happens, you want to talk about ratings tanking? Goodness gracious. Darren McCardle said last two first games have gone against the Lakers, no lie. Yeah, no, I know that's true, but I think the circumstances have changed a little bit, right? So, I mean, we'll see. Maybe they want a little drama. They want something to draw in some more viewers. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of this. I think you're going to see whistles for the Lakers a lot over this series. I'm not sure what they're going to do. They especially need the Lakers to win quickly, especially if the Heat are going to end up knocking out the Celtics pretty quickly, right? I mean, they're already up 2-0 in that series. We'll see. We will see what happens. All right, finally, last topic of the day, so that I can get out of here and knock out dad duty and work on college football stuff and whatnot. The Pac-12. The Pac-12, the Mountain West, and the MAC, all of which shut down right after, well, the MAC was before the Big Ten, I believe, or same day, whatever it was, very close. All of these different conferences shut down and said that they were not playing football this fall. Most of them said that they were not going to even discuss it until January 1st, right? Or they know they would not be playing until January 1st. And now, due to all of these different circumstances around rapid testing, etc., it appears that they are going to come back and play. And I believe that they absolutely should, right? There are a lot of kids everywhere. Now, the Pac-12, those players, those coaches and whatnot, they did not raise nearly the fight that the Big Ten players did, right? The players at Ohio State and at Nebraska and the coaches and everybody else that was involved, they pushed for a season. They fought for themselves. In the Pac-12, they didn't start until the Big Ten decided that they were going to come back, until there started to be word that the Big Ten was going to do this. How in the world does anything that the Big Ten does affect what any of these other conferences does? It makes zero sense to me. Now, I'm glad that they're coming back, but if you are the Pac-12 and you start on Halloween, on October 31st, how in the world are you possibly going to get in enough games to warrant an inclusion in the college football playoff? Because that is what this is about, right? If you think that it doesn't matter, let's see, Tommy Jarvis jumps in. was a lot of money on money line for Bengals. Vegas would have took too big of a loss. Yeah. And look, the Bengals covered for me because I only took the +6. I didn't take the money line because I didn't feel good about it. But either way. So with the Pac-12, I don't know how they are going to it almost would make more sense for them to just run their season separate from everything else and just not worry about the college football playoff, because they are going to announce on December the 19th who is in the playoff. If you've only got in 5 or 6 games at that point, there's almost zero shot. Now, with Ohio State, you can absolutely get that done, right? You're Ohio State, you can get a game in against Penn State, you can beat Michigan, you can beat whoever, right? You can find a way to get good enough games and look good enough that you can get into the playoff. If you're the Pac-12, history has shown your teams have not been good enough to get there. There is no traditional power from there. Joseph Gomez said Pac-12 players were looking for more than safety if they played this year. Yeah, I'm with you. Terry said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend. Go Cubs, go. Darren said that the Pac-12 are too scared to play the Cowardly Lion. I don't think they're too scared to play. I think they just don't. It's not that the players don't care. Don't get it twisted there. It is the people around them, the fans, don't really care. And I will say this, the Pac-12 came out and had a much better PR representation with that whole Zoom meeting and whatnot that they did. That was a much better prepared statement than what the Big Ten came out with. The Big Ten, they had no real good reason. Because the one reason that they propped up on, the one thing that was their kickstand, got kicked right out from under them immediately, because all of those numbers that they came out with, it was proven incorrect. I mean, the next week, it was insane. So all of that stuff came out in the Pac-12. Their whole problem was the restrictions, right? If your government or your governors and your mayors and your local restrictions don't even allow you to practice, that is an issue. And they're still running into some of those in the Mountain West and in the Pac-12. You're not going to have that in the MAC, but the MAC issue we thought was, well, they don't have enough money for testing. They don't have enough money for whatever. But if you've got the rapid testing come in, that's a little thing. Terry said, I feel that if these teams don't play at least 8 games, they should be held out of the playoffs. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. But it also depends on what happens with the Big 12 and the SEC and the ACC. Because it is not a guarantee that the SEC gets in 10 games or 11 for their champion, whatever. It's not a guarantee at all. There's no telling what's going to happen with this. As we've already seen, Houston-Baylor was postponed today. That one was just scheduled last Saturday for this Saturday. And due to contact tracing and whatever else, Baylor had to pull out of the game. So that's already happened. You've got 2 other games that have been postponed this week. North Carolina's game against Charlotte and Florida Atlantic against Georgia Southern. Like, you're going to have a ton of postponements. It's just going to happen, and it's because of contact tracing and all that, right? If you know, or if you have been in proximity to somebody that has had the virus, you have to sit out for 14 days. That is the typical standard. In the Big Ten, it is 21 days, right? But that's if you've tested positive for the virus. You got to sit out for 21 days. Typically, everywhere else is 14 days. That's kind of a problem. That's a bit of an issue. Stevie Steve said Coastal Carolina game over or under. I ain't touching the total on that one. I will tell you for tonight, I've got Campbell plus 28.5, and I'm throwing money in the wind. We'll see which way it blows. But either way, Darren McCardle said, should they not all play the same number of games? One less makes it unfair and harder to put someone in. Well, it depends on who the one extra game is against, right? So I think it's almost a guarantee that Georgia is going to beat Arkansas in week 1. But, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. If Ohio State's games against Rutgers and in Maryland get canceled, well then, did it really matter? But, I mean, we'll just have to see what happens with this. But the Pac-12, you're already giving up a lot of leeway. The Big Ten was already going to have issues getting 8 games in by starting on October 24th. The Pac-12 is talking about starting on Halloween. If the Mountain West and the MAC don't get started until the beginning of November, how in the world do you possibly get in enough games for it to even make a difference? For it to even make a dent? Terry said, well, then at least 75% of a season, they should do something to retry to keep it as fair as possible so a one-loss team doesn't get knocked out for a 4-0 team. Agreed, but you guys have to remember, this is a television show. The college football playoff is owned by ESPN. It's owned and operated by ESPN. That's who decides who gets to get into the playoff. Now, the guys that actually make the decision are football guys. So they want to tell you, well, I believe that this team is better, and here's why. And they'll explain it away. But it doesn't always have to be wins and losses and whatever else, right? It can, if they wanted to put in a 2-loss team over a 1-loss team, they can. It just depends on schedule, et cetera, et cetera. But as it stands, I mean, it's been mostly, they prefer that you be undefeated as opposed to having suffered a loss. That's the way it goes. But the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and the MAC all need to make sure that they get this thing handled almost immediately if they are wanting to get into any kind of a playoff, any kind of a big-time bowl game, et cetera. Now, the MAC, the Mountain West, I don't know that they're too worried about it, but the Mountain West would like to play in the New Year's Six. You better get more than 6 games in. Just a guess. Just saying. All right, you guys have been absolutely wonderful. It was a short show today, but I am so thankful that all of you decided to join in and help stir up these conversations. We wanted to get a show out on a Friday. We always do. Chris could not be here, but he will be back again with me tomorrow morning for the SBR Closing Lines College Football Show. It's going to be a good time. It comes on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the Sportsbook Review YouTube page. You guys have been great. Terry said they should get rid of that. It's an athletic competition. It should be the best teams or do a playoff with all the conference champs then this year. So, yeah, we shall see. We shall see. I don't know what they're going to do this year. They might expand the playoff. I mean, who knows? It'd be insane. He said that would make for more games and more TV. Yeah, I'm in. Make more money all around. Let's do 8 games. Let's do 16 or 16 teams. I'm in. And so either way, go over to winningcureseverything.com. Make sure you're subscribed everywhere you need to be subscribed. Live show, podcast, etc. Share out the show. Tell your buddies about it. Make sure that you like the video, of course. Give it the thumbs up, all that kind of stuff if you're on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And tell your friends about it. All that good stuff. Go over to Sportsbook Review's YouTube page or find us over at sbrpicks.com/NCAAF. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have been wonderful. I will see you all again in the morning. But until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we'll see you Saturday. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show, leave a nice review, and make sure to